for you?
My name is Adrian Parris. I went through a very traumatic experience a couple summers ago that led me down the spiritual path where I found God, and finding God, this is just a very abridged version of it. I started realizing that I do have a purpose on this planet, and everybody truly does. And so I was praying for months on end, okay, I'm still struggling with a whole bunch of other stuff, trying to become this more purified and just better version of myself. But what is my purpose so I can actually have more intention in what I'm doing? As somebody that was, and still kind of is, pretty antisocial, very much an introvert. And so as someone that constantly said probably 1,000,000 times, I don't like people, when I was praying to God and asked what my purpose was, one day so clearly, and I knew it was him because it made no sense to me. He said, your purpose is to help people. And I'm like, bro, it sounds so simple, but it just blew my mind that day, because it's I'm here in this bubble, locked up in this room, going through everything that I'm going through and just doing it alone because I'm too afraid of being emotionally open, and at the same time, too afraid of being that person that really empathizes with other people's emotions as well. So to say to me that my purpose is centered around people and loving them and really helping them, it would just blow my mind. I went to a music and arts high school in New York. I was a music major back then, and I see my classmates now, people I was in literal class with, I see them on Netflix and stuff like that. That's the kind of school it was. It was very filled with a bunch of talented people, and I was studying music every single day for multiple classes a day. Graduated after 4 years not feeling creative at all, and it was just straight like that. So I switched to business because I was just I'm not this creative person, et cetera, et cetera. And then going through what I was going through, the only way that I really knew how was just writing to myself, writing to God, because like I said, I wasn't the type of person to really be communicating it through to face to face to someone else. So I just had to write it to myself, write it to my past self, write it to my inner child, write it to my future self, write it to God. Then I started just putting it into poetry, just because people like Josiah inspired me to do that as well. Just other people that I saw around campus made me realize poetry is not this whole thou arts and all of this kinds of it's just something real. It's just a real feeling and experience to it. And I was going through something that I was really feeling and experiencing. So the only way I knew to really put it down was just rambling and venting in poetry. That went on throughout the pandemic, and then I came back my junior year, which was last year, and I was determined to just get up on stage. That was my only goal, just get up on stage. I got up on stage, I was so nervous. I just had my phone with the poem, read it, not even looking at the audience, just that's just that, I did it, and I'm out of here. And I started with poetry, and now I create music as well, because that was always one of the goals. It was just poetry is just this means to getting me on stage and getting me comfortable with those personal interactions with people and just communicating. And now I also make music, so I sing and I rap and I do things like that. So I just consider myself a writer first. So writing poetry, writing music. I want to get into writing films and screenwriting for those one day. I also want to write books. Of course, obviously releasing my poetry into their own books, but also stories and things. So when I hear people telling me that they're writing stories, I'm super interested in those. I just consider myself a writer first, and I feel I'm gonna write through whatever it means. So I feel especially in music nowadays, something that I was struggling with, especially while I was creating music, was if you know the Bible at all, you know the devil was once an angel, and he was this talented musician up in heaven. So when I started making music, I was I know music has this potential to have inherently evil and just sick, perverted, conniving ways about it, depending on how the artist behind it and the spirit behind that artist is using that and putting whatever that is into the music. So what I'm realizing, people are boldly putting darkness into their music, and the world is going to celebrate that, because that's just that's the nature of the world. I am here to make music as part of one of those mediums, but I'm going to boldly put love and light into my music and not put things that diminish or degrade the Black community or someone's experience in my music. My music is going to be to uplift people And honestly, my lived experience, embracing the fact that I'm imperfect and embracing my imperfections, just because I'm a man of God does not mean that I have to be perfect. I am to be progressing on a daily basis. So it's just using that music or whatever other gift or medium to spread a message of love and light and be a person that's just approachable at the end of the day.
And in a few words, what would you like to say to the version of yourself that you'll see in May?
Oh, that I'll see in May. Okay. Just that I love you. Straight up. I love you. You're exactly where you need to be.